Well, I think, look, I mean, the reality is there's a lot of support within the organized labor for Democratic incumbents. I'm a Republican challenger. They don't know me. He's part of the Democratic power base, and so there's a lot of history there that I don't have. I'm actually really confident that once they understand that my proposals will actually make New York State a better place to be a working person, because the people who get hurt the most by our tax policies in Albany are working people, like my parents. And I think that once people recognize that within organized labor, I think you'll see that I think I'll have more support from the community.
I guess obviously everyone is expecting, polls are showing that you've pulled ahead by 17 points in the past 2 weeks. What do you attribute that to?
Well, I think it's two things. One, our internal polls have been much tighter for a long period of time, and so we think this has been a tight race, but we have shown a lot of momentum, which is, I think, a function of people just paying attention. I think for a long time people weren't paying attention to this race. It's a down-ballot race. They don't realize how important the controller can be, because in reality it has not been particularly relevant under Mr. Napoli's leadership. And I think as people started to focus on what I can bring to the office, they started to focus on the comparison between myself and Mr. Napoli, and that's really benefited me.
Our exit polls have shown many Democrats breaking party lines, or voting for Cuomo, voting for Trump, breaking lines with the party to vote for you and/or Mr. Donovan. Why do you think so many Democrats are so much rally behind a Republican who they very well have never met?
Well, a couple things. First of all, it's actually very gratifying to hear that. I have heard so many times over the course of the last several weeks, including today, people will say that I'm the first Republican they've ever voted for. It means an enormous amount to me. I think it's a testament to a couple things. One is this: I've been saying from the beginning that this role should not be a partisan office. I mean, look at the responsibilities. You're managing money. You're using the audit power to review financial mismanagement. It should really be an office for someone of the finance profession. And I think as people have heard that message and really started to respond to it, that's resonating. So I'm glad. I'm enormously heartened to see support across all party lines, and I hope that is a sign of real support for the office.
I guess just to follow up on what you just said, how would you hope to make the controlled office a non-partisan office, given that it is elected in a partisan fashion?
Well, it is, but you look at how I conducted my campaign. I haven't campaigned against the Democratic Party. I've campaigned against Mr. Napoli, but I haven't attacked really anybody else throughout this effort. I haven't attacked any interests that are represented within the other party. I really just focused on what the office can do and how I personally can transform that. So I think I've conducted my campaign in a manner consistent with that. I think in all of this, it's very important for me to go after programs that are wasteful of taxpayer resources, whether they're originated by Democrats or Republicans. That way, I think, again, continue to be seen as nonpartisan, and I think I'll maximize my effectiveness.
Do you have a priority that you need to get in?
Yep.
Pension fund, returns?
So I've got three priorities. The first is need an audit of every dollar of state spending, top to bottom, and that's going to take a while. The first bit of that will be to focus on the initial budget gap for the 2012 budget, which obviously we need to solve in the first few months of 2011, and just to close that budget gap with specific spending cuts, that dollar tax increase so long. The second longer period is a longer phase for the 2013 budget, which will be a 15-month effort to really kind of propose a fundamental restructuring plan for the state of New York in concert with the governor and reform-oriented members of the legislature. So that's the first. The second is pension reform, and that starts by applying private sector standards to the current public pension fund.
How far down can you take it?
How far down can you take what?
From 8%.
I don't know.
The city is looking at, is nervous about doing a quarter point. They're asking for money up front.
Well, it depends on the mechanism to do that. I mean, the real question is what's the right thing to do, and then we can start there. And then you got to figure out how do you fix it. As you know, I've been saying throughout this campaign, we have a huge problem with our pension funds being hidden by phony accounting. And what we need to do is first be honest about it, and then create a long-term plan to fix it.
How much do you think Andrew Cuomo's neutrality in the race has mattered in making it close?
It's an interesting question. I don't know, because I think when it comes down to is it'll be the Democratic voters or voters who support Attorney General Cuomo who may cross over to support me. The polls so far suggest it's a meaningful number of people. Obviously there's a lot of history between the Attorney General and the Controller's Office in recent investigations, so it's hard for me to speculate. But it's probably helpful.
Have you had any conversations with Cuomo?
Or Paladino?
Yeah, I've seen Carl on the campaign trail, Republican events and rallies, things like that.
Can you tell us if you voted for him today?
Sorry.
Can you tell us if you
know, I've assiduously declined to talk about voting because I think it's the same thing as talking about who I would have endorsed. As you know, I've tried to keep the controller's office independent of any offices that I may one day on it.
I'm just curious, one of the issues that Mr. Napoli has made, is currently audited, are problems with the polls. In such a tight race as yours, are you at all concerned that the fact that this is the first election out with the new voting systems may somehow handicap your race?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a concern for all of us candidates. There's some efforts to impound ballots and the like. I think it's obviously very important that every vote's counted accurately. It's hard to know how we would cut one way or another, who it may hurt. But there's been reports of confusion. There obviously was confusion during the primaries. I just think the important thing is to make sure every vote's counted accurately.
I just walked a little bit late. Just your overall feeling, just a couple hours before the polls close.
Sure. I feel fantastic. I feel like we've had all the momentum in the last couple of weeks. We're peaking at the exact right time. People are focused on this race. A stark contrast we bring to the office versus my opponent. Our positive agenda for change in the controller's office, and more importantly for fiscal health in New York State. I couldn't be happier.
What's the biggest question you've heard even today, talking to people as you press the flesh here these last few hours? What's the biggest concern you're getting from folks who want to see you?
It's interesting. The most common comment I've gotten, which actually means a lot to me in many ways, is you're the first Republican I've ever voted for. Don't screw it up. And it means a lot for so many things. One, the fact that people want to cross party lines to do that, and then secondly that that second part's critically important. You can't screw it up. The trust that people place in you by giving you the vote is the first time I've felt that, and it's incredibly humbling. And we just have enormous problems to deal with as we get started. So David asked me before he showed up, what are you doing tomorrow? And I said, we're going to get started at noon tomorrow. I'm going to sleep in tomorrow. We're going to get started at noon, so we've only got 60 days to plan this transition. It's critically important.
Do you feel the fact that Tom Napoli was never elected to this office has helped your campaign?
Yes, definitely. I think there are a lot of questions in people's mind about his independence and his legitimacy in office. He himself has said that the controller, if it becomes vacant, he should be subject to a special election. So I think he himself feels that his appointment is somewhat illegitimate, and I think that's right. So he never established himself in the minds of voters. I think it's also partly a function of his performance in office. So I think that has helped.
Do you think his affiliation with the state legislature, so to speak, may also?
Yeah, definitely.